Hello and welcome to Jackson's Job. Today we are going to do another viewer request and slow down the macaronage. Making macarons can be a tricky process. From the meringue to the drying stage, everything has a potential for failure. For me, it is part of the challenge and fun of making macarons. I personally use the French meringue method that is based on the original recipe from hundreds of years ago. Since there are so many ways to make macarons, I cannot guarantee this process works for the more modern methods. Below there will be a link to the recipe that I'm using for this tutorial for those of you that are interested. First, you want to start out with a soft peak French meringue. This is so crucial for these macarons to come out correctly. If you have medium or stiff peaks, prepare for hollow shells, odd shapes, and flat macarons. The peak should curl back into the meringue softly without standing straight up or a stiff curl. Next, you want to sift your almond flour and powdered sugar together. The more you sift it, the easier it will be to incorporate into the meringue. I recommend 3 to 4 times for the beginner. This will give you a nice smooth and shiny top in the end as well. Now let's get to the macaronage stage. Macaronage is just a fancy word for folding and deflating the air out of the batter. Wouldn't it be much easier if we simply said, fold the batter, then gently deflate some of the air until the batter becomes smooth, shiny, and levels in on itself? Well, today, my friends, we are going to fold and deflate that batter. The first step of the process is to gently fold in the dry ingredients into the meringue. We want to take a spatula or even a whisk and scrape along the edges of the bowl and then cut through the middle. As we drag our spatula through the middle, be sure to scrape along the bottom of the bowl. You can also occasionally flip the ingredients over on itself to find dry ingredients hiding underneath the meringue. Do this a few times and then scrape the excess batter off your spatula onto the edge of your bowl. This will help fold in the ingredients better and avoid deflating too much air out of the batter clinging to the spatula. We do this process of scraping the sides, cutting through the middle while scraping the bottom and flipping over until they are all combined. At first it seems like it's not going to come together at all. It's very sticky, and then just like magic, the dry ingredients are quickly absorbed into that meringue. It's almost like a dry sponge that takes a while to suck up water, and then when it does, it does. Stop for a moment and let's observe this batter. Notice how it's sitting in place and doesn't move or flow at all. The batter wants to cling to the spatula or will drop off in a clump. What if we piped this batter right now and baked it? I challenge you to stop and do so and let me know your results. You would get a very lovely tasting cookie, but it wouldn't look like a macaron. It would be similar to a German almond meringue cookie, which is absolutely delicious. I'll put the word up on the screen if you want to look up the recipe. It is an amazing cookie. But since we want macarons and not an almond meringue today, we are going to deflate some of this air that was created whipping up the egg whites. The process of deflating the air is very similar to what we just did with a little twist. First, you scrape along the outside and then you cut through the middle as before. However, as you pull the batter along the middle, you press it up against the side wall with a little pressure to deflate some of the air in the meringue. You will repeat this process over and over until the batter turns shiny, smooth, and levels in on itself. But let's slow this down a little and look after just a few turns or even just one turn. As beginners to the world of macarons, I recommend the slow and steady approach. Now let's lift the spatula. Does the batter cling to it? Does it drop off in a clump? Does it drip slowly? Does it ribbon off? Does it slip off? With each and every fold, take your time to observe the batter. Does it move or is it staying in place? Is it moving like soft serve ice cream or lava? Is it speedily moving along like hot syrup? Observing the batter will help you make macarons to perfection. Now let's observe the batter that came off the spatula into the bowl. Is it sitting on top and not moving? Is it slowly moving but not leveling off? Is it leveling off? Is it quickly leveling off and looking like melted ice cream? Are you piping shapes? You would want it to be more resistant to settling. If it's just slightly above level, if you give it a tap or two on the bottom of the bowl, what happens? I strongly recommend you do this with each and every fold. Observe the batter for a good solid 30 seconds. Look for signs that it's ready. The batter should slowly start moving and settling into the bowl. The batter that came off your spatula should be shiny and ribbon off slowly but freely, and it should start to settle in nicely and level off or just nearly level off. Some will tell you it should sink in quickly. Where it may work with some recipes, please don't do it with mine. By the time you transfer this into your piping bag, your batter is now too deflated and you're going to only end up with thin, hollow shells that are full of broken promises and dreams. Don't make yourself sad. When it comes to the process of making macarons, a slightly undermixed macaron is lovely to look at, has the right texture and taste. Undermixed macaron should be your goal as the beginner. That way you get to enjoy what a macaron is supposed to taste like, and you can always work your way up to perfecting the right amount of turns you need in order to have the best looking macaron. See this batter right here? See how it's nicely ribboning off the spatula and the batter is moving slowly across the bowl like lava? Now let's look at the batter on top of that is slowly sinking back into place. But in the end, there are faint lines in the batter if you look. It's not completely level, but this is where I recommend you stop as a beginner, or even one fold before this one, and I'll tell you why. But first, scroll back and rewind if you will, and look at the previous one for comparison. By the time you scrape the batter into your piping bag, you will be deflating more of your batter. And as you are squeezing your batter onto the baking tray, even more air is being deflated. When you are new to making macarons, you tend to be a little heavy-handed and naturally will squeeze a little tighter. Leaving a little wiggle room will ensure you get an edible and pleasant tasting macaron. Watch me scrape this almost ready batter into a piping bag. I'm going to treat the batter as a newbie and scoot it in haphazardly. See how it's already starting to level off more quickly as it's inside the bag? What if I had folded just one more time? It likely would have been folded too much, especially when I go to pipe this out and I'm squeezing too hard. By slightly undermixing that batter, you will often end up with just right macarons in the beginning. Let me pipe these out. Initially, you'll see the first couple with faint lines, but as I continue, the lines will disappear and the batter levels off nicely. Toward the end, it may come out a little too freely. Those will likely have pockets of air, and the top two may keep their lines or even have a little crack. But the rest of them, they will be lovely little macaron shells begging for fillings only you can dream up. If you need any more help mastering the macaron, please comment below or find me on my website and send me an email. I am more than happy to help you learn how to make macarons, as they were such a challenge to me in the beginning and I know the struggles you are likely going through. I want to leave you with this. Embrace the learning process, expect failures along the way, and know that it's just one step closer to you succeeding. What if those folks at Rocket Chemical Company stopped at 39 tries? We'd all be without that famous product. Keep trying until you perfect the world's most difficult cookie. You will eventually get there. I absolutely promise you that. There are lots of recipes out there for you to try, and one of them is guaranteed to be the one that will click for you. But you will never get them perfected if you give up. Now, a macaron video would not be a macaron video without Miss Maggie making an appearance. Let's look at what this little counter surfer has been up to. She's such a hilarious and perfect little sous chef. I pay her in macarons in love, and she absolutely adores that. As you can see, she's up to her silly little antics. This is my favorite part of making macarons, making her happy. And that's why you see orange and yellow macarons. I had to remake them because someone may have interrupted my video one too many times. Both her and my husband decided to jump in this scene. They both want to see what I'm doing. Since my husband was around, I decided to use him as a hand model, and that didn't go well, but I also used him as a taste tester as well. Here's my dark little secret for you all. I do not enjoy the taste of macarons one bit. They are simply way too sweet for my liking. Let that be a lesson for you. It will never hurt my feelings if you don't like one of my recipes, because I don't like some of my recipes. But I do really enjoy making them, teaching you how to make them, and Maggie loves them enough for all of us. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and it helps you with your baking endeavors. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy baking.